So I thought that I'd first say a few words to help orientate you round the banking system. As new arrivals, one of the first things you'll want to do is open a bank account. This will allow you to receive your money transfers, pay your bills by direct debit, and all sorts of other things that will make your life easier. One mistake I think a lot of people make is to just wander into the first bank they see, thinking that all banks are much the same, and ask to open an account. In actual fact, they all offer something slightly different, and some of the differences can affect you quite seriously. For example, for those of you who are studying at the university here, you may have noticed that there are 2 or 3 banks with branches near the university, Great Western and MoneySafe, for example. But only one, Finley's, actually has an office inside one of the university buildings. For the others, you'd have a bit more of a walk. Some banks give away free gifts. Evergreen offers a laptop to people who keep a balance of more than £5,000 for 9 months. With International Union, you'll get a phone when you open your first account. And 1 or 2 others, like MoneySafe and Northern Star, offer mountain bikes or vacuum cleaners if you put money on deposit, that sort of thing. More seriously, you should look at the sort of interest rates the bank will offer you, both if you need an overdraft or loan, or if you're hoping to get some interest on your savings. At the moment, Northern Star offers the highest rate of interest to savers, but Great Western will lend money at a lower percentage than normal to people registered on higher education courses. So you can see it really is worth looking around. Another thing it's a good idea to inquire about are bank charges. Again, they're not all the same. Some charge the same across the board, such as Evergreen, Finley's and Northern Star. But MoneySafe actually say that if you're in credit, your account won't cost a thing. Though, just like the others, as soon as you go into the red, their prices become pretty steep. Of course, one of the things you'll want as soon as you open your account is a debit card. So I thought I'd give you a little tour of these essential little pieces of plastic. If you look at the slide, you'll see that on the front at the top, they tend to have either the name of the bank or the company which has issued the card. Then, a bit more than halfway down on the right, you'll see this hologram with a picture which appears to move as you move the card around in front of you. This sort of detail makes cards very hard to forge, although, like with anything else, there are people out there who'll try. Then, on the back, there's another of those sophisticated high-tech details, and that's the magnetic strip, which is this black thing going from one side to the other, which contains certain coded details. While we're on the back, you'll see another lighter strip with 3 numbers at the end. That's your security number, which they always ask for when you use the card for an internet purchase or over the phone, and it also has a space where you, as the cardholder, should put your signature so that shop assistants can compare it when you sign a payment slip. Going back to the front, in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll usually find the bank logo, and just to the left of it, there's your own name in raised print. One thing you always need for telephone and internet sales is the expiry date. And on the card in front of you, that's just above the cardholder's name. Finally, in most places, you have to insert your card into a machine and key in your PIN. Just above the card number on the left, you can see a chip, and that chip is there to verify that the PIN you have entered is correct.
Section 2. You will hear a tour leader giving information about a bus tour. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15 on page 84. As you listen to the first part of the talk, answer questions 11 to 15.
Thank you for choosing City Tours. The reason so many people choose our tours when visiting this city is because you can design your tour to suit your own interests. Your all-day pass entitles you to board our bus at any stop and stay as long as you like at each place. The all-day bus pass costs $18 for adults. Children between the ages of 5 and 12 pay half the adult fare, and children under 5 ride for free. Our buses run every hour on the half hour, starting at 8:30 a.m. Our most popular tour is the Centre City Tour, which goes to all the major attractions in the centre of the city. From the starting point here at the tour bus office, the bus goes to the first stop, Hill Park. As you may guess, this park is located at the top of a small hill. The next stop is the fishing docks. Following that, the bus goes on to the third stop, Bay Bridge, located at the foot of the bridge which crosses the bay. The fourth stop is in the shopping district. Then the fifth and last stop is at Green Street.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20 on page 85. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
There are many interesting things to do and see on the Centre City Tour. At the first stop, you can enjoy a spectacular view of the bay, the city, and especially of the fishing docks, which are located at the foot of the hill. At the second stop, you can walk around and look at the boats. Fresh fish from the bay is also for sale here, since this is the place where the fishermen bring in their catch. The next stop is where some of the city's finest seafood restaurants are located, so you might want to plan a lunch stop here. You can eat fresh fish here, prepared in the traditional local way. The fourth stop is, of course, where you can do your shopping. Don't miss the opportunity to purchase some of our city's famous handmade baskets. You'll want to take several home as souvenirs of your visit to our city. Finally, at the last stop on the tour, you can visit one of the oldest buildings in our city, the theatre. This building was built over 400 years ago and is still used today as a place to see plays, musicals and other performances, as well as our annual film festival.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
You will hear a conversation between a university lecturer and two students. You have 30 seconds to look at questions 21 to 30.
James, Carol, thank you for coming in. Have a seat. So, I take it both of you have completed your interviews with the managers?
Yeah.
Right. Great. Remind me, who was supposed to do the interview with the manager from the chain supermarket?
That was me.
Right, so that means that you were going to do the interview with the clothes shop, Carol, right?
Yeah, but we decided to swap at the last minute, so I did the supermarket instead.
Okay, so let's start with you first, Carol. If I remember correctly, you reported that your interviewee was very difficult to get through to. Is that right?
Yeah, he had a very busy schedule, so it was hard for him to fit me in and show me around the store and everything. We had to reschedule about 3 times before I finally managed to do the interview with him.
And how was it for you, James?
Oh, I had no issues at all. I just went in on a weekday and the shop was empty, so we did it right there and then.
Great. So, Carol, how did you find the management scheme? Let's start with how they recruit their trainees.
So, according to the manager, the way it works is that the graduates go through a rigorous recruitment process that includes an interview with a panel and a trial day. Then they have to go through a probationary period of 3 months, and if their performance is satisfactory during those 3 months, they're offered a place in the scheme.
And yours, James?
Well, it's quite similar to Carol's actually. The only differences are that they're on probation for 6 months and there are 3 individual interviews instead of a panel. Oh, and you don't need to be a graduate. Sometimes they recruit people internally for the scheme if their performance suggests they could be a good fit for it.
Okay. And how about the training offered? Carol?
It's all very on the job. Trainees start at the bottom as shelf stockers or delivery merchandisers. Then they slowly move up the ranks by becoming cashiers, shift supervisors, assistant managers, and finally managers. It's actually very similar to what any employee would have to go through if they wanted to become managers. The only difference is the timescale. The whole process would normally take more than 5 years, but in the scheme they cram it down to 3.
Right. James?
Well, again, very similar to Carol's. The only thing is that there's also plenty of external training involved. People on the management scheme are sent abroad for 6 months, usually to Italy or France, to witness firsthand the production of a new season's collection. So they spend some time with the designers and they tour the factories where the clothes are produced. They also receive training on management skills through college courses paid for by the company.
And how long would it normally take someone on the scheme to become managers?
It depends on their performance, but normally about 2 years. There's also the part-time option, though, which would take about 4. Oh, no, sorry, 5, because their probation period is a year instead of 6 months.
Great. So, what was your overall impression of the scheme from your interviews with the managers?
Well, the manager I spoke to was very friendly and incredibly knowledgeable. He had been through the scheme himself, and he attested to its efficiency and helpfulness. The only criticism I'd have is what James said. In their company, there's almost no external training involved, and I think it would be useful to send graduates to courses at further education colleges to improve their general knowledge and understanding of management skills. But overall, yes, very positive.
Great. And you, James?
The same as Carol. The manager I spoke to was incredibly friendly and eager to promote her scheme. She hadn't actually gone through it herself, but she was very involved in the process, both in training and in recruitment. She's actually one of the 3 people who do the interviews for the new trainees. And I really like the structure with the classes at college. I think that's very useful and it improves the trainees' chances of getting another job eventually, should they decide to leave the company in the future. The only thing I have to say against it is that 2 years is too short in my opinion. It should really be closer to 3 years, as I imagine the trainees would get exhausted fairly quickly with all this information fired at them in such a short span of time.
Thank you both. So now you know you need to compare your 2 interviews and decide which scheme would be most beneficial to someone from a disadvantaged background.
Now turn to Section 4. Section 4. You will hear a talk about the practice of company outsourcing. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Welcome, class, to your very first lecture in this series on business in the modern world, conducted by myself, Dr. Toby Bennett. Today, we will be looking into the practice of company outsourcing, using TCP technologies as a case study. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this practice, I will give you a summative definition. Company outsourcing involves the contracting of various business activities by one company to another. This practice will sometimes occur from a Western company to a party based in a third world country, the rationale being to make significant financial savings on lower international labor rates and to potentially increase quality. Now, our case study for today is TCP Technologies, a party located in India that receives outsourced tasks from Western companies. The manager of TCP Technologies is a man called Manjeet Khanna, who has personally developed a series of aims and philosophies by which the company is expected to operate. He claims that the most important of these philosophies is to create a workplace where each individual member has the opportunity to contribute their opinion to the operations of the company. That is to say that he found it important to develop a democratic environment. As a means of ensuring quality from every individual at TCP Technologies, a grading system has been developed that encourages an ethos of hard work and recognizes accomplishment. This grading of individuals is based upon a series of factors such as turnover, hours worked, and efficiency. Every month, Khanna publishes the grades on an internal website, where staff can access not only their own grades, but also compare it to others. A spirit of playful competitiveness has developed through this method, which has resulted in increased efficiency and turnover across the company. Khanna also saw it as essential to develop a culturally diverse group of employees as a means of presenting a multifaceted image that would appeal to a host of potential employees from across the globe. This cultural openness has not only increased the quantity of incoming contracted opportunities by 7%, but has also benefited the company itself significantly. A level of transparency now exists that had not before been apparent. According to questionnaires carried out recently, these newly introduced measures have significantly increased the rate of staff satisfaction, which has subsequently led to an increase of 32% in the company's income. These figures are truly admirable and serve as a testament to the measures that Khanna has introduced to the workplace at TCP Technologies. In a recent interview published by The Economist, he declared, "The figures speak for themselves. My system works." When asked if he had any advice for companies on methods they could employ to streamline workflow and increase turnover, he replied, "It's simple, really. A company must see itself not as one entity comprised of nameless components, but instead as a living organism composed of cells, each one essential to the functioning of the whole. I suggest that the motto by which your management operates will be Employee First." Many benefits have been reaped from the aforementioned changes in management style, such as a significant decrease in staff turnover. This improvement alone has solved many problems that had before stunted the growth of the company. A lot of these improvements came from the realization that the solution does not have to be produced internally, but can come from any other company. The grading system also immeasurably enhanced the dynamics of the company. The fact that this measuring system is solely produced for staff members and inaccessible by management means that it cannot be used as a judging criterion for promotion. It has proven itself a relaxed and informal means of stimulating workflow. When asked about specific features of his managing style, Kana mentioned that it is important for him to respond personally to any complaints filed by staff members. Having found the existing complaints process slow and ineffective, he introduced a new online system that created a direct line of communication between Kana and all employees of the company. The complaint form, dubbed by Kana as a ticket, eradicates the middleman, is easily accessible to all employees online, and has an interface that can be instinctively navigated. Any staff-related complaint, such as those relating to air conditioning and food quality, can be submitted directly to Kana via this online system. Entitlement to vacation is also a popular issue discussed through this forum. The main benefit of using this system is that staff must include their personal details on the ticket before they are able to submit it. In the past, anonymous complaints had been the root of much confusion and caused many wasted work hours, so the new system has put a ban on this form of complaint. That wraps up the lecture for today. Please remember that attendance is mandatory.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
And your question is?
My question is that I have problem in my vocabulary, so how can I improve vocabulary?
The main way to learn vocabulary is by reading.
Yes.
Yeah, and when you read something you enjoy. Don't read grammar books and things like that, yeah? Read something you enjoy.
For more details about the app, look in the description below.